Sunday. Happy Sunday. We are going to get started with knowing Jesus in a new way. And to do this, to be ready for this story, we need to go back a couple weeks to Easter and remember the mystery of Easter. And once we remember that mystery of Easter and we hold it in our heart and we are ready to hear this story, so take a moment, take a breath in, and let it go. And let your mind think back to the mystery of Easter. Now we are ready. On the first day of knowing Jesus in a new way, the women went to the tomb. There were 3 Marys among others. Mary Magdalene led the way, and there was Mary, the mother of James, and Mary, the mother of Jesus. Mary Magdalene was not a mother, but she was a good and strong friend, and they carried spices with them to finish the burial, and they wondered how they would get inside. If you remember, there was a stone rolled over this. However, when they got to the tomb, they noticed the stone had rolled away, and inside, the body was gone. There was nothing there, nothing except the white linens that had covered his body. The women went back to tell the others, but no one believed them. Peter did. Peter, being Peter, jumped up and ran to the tomb. And some say John ran too and got there first. And they waited. John waited for Peter, and they waited to go in together. They noticed his absence, but they could feel his presence, even in the absence. Jesus was gone. He was gone. He was truly gone. Mary Magdalene came up and stood outside, and she was weeping. And Peter and John went back, and Mary stayed. "Woman, why are you weeping?" And through her tears, she saw 2 men dressed in white. "Jesus has gone. Tell the disciples to meet him in Galilee." "Woman, why are you weeping?" another voice asked. And she turned and she saw someone. It must have been the gardener. "Tell me, where have they taken him? And I will go and I will take him away." "Mary." This time, he said her name. And she knew it was he. Mary must have stepped forward because Jesus said, "No, you cannot hold me. I have risen, but I have not yet ascended." And then he was gone. On the second Sunday in the season of Easter, we remember how it was that afternoon of the first Easter. 2 of Jesus' followers, made their way slowly toward Emmaus, some 7 miles from Jerusalem, and they must have been shaking their heads in wonder as they walked and they talked about what happened. The cross, the empty tomb. What did it mean? And a stranger joined them. They didn't really pay much attention until he asked, "What are you talking about? Are you the only one in Jerusalem who has not heard what has taken place these days? What happened? The cross, the empty tomb. There has been so much. You are foolish and slow of heart." He opened the scriptures to them. "Do you remember how we were trapped in Egypt and Moses led us through the water into freedom? Do you remember how we were trapped in our freedom in the desert and God gave Moses the 10 Commandments to guide us? Do you remember how we were trapped in exile and the prophet said a child would lead us and that someone would come to suffer and die so that we might really be alive?" By this time, they were in the village of Emmaus. The miles had passed quickly as the stranger talked. Then he was about to go when the two asked him to stay, and he did. And they sat at the table for a time talking, and now they knew why their hearts had burned within as they walked with him on the road. They got up slowly and hurried back to Jerusalem to tell the rest that he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. On the 3rd Sunday in the Easter season, we remember how one night it was dark in Jerusalem, and the disciples had gathered in a room with the doors shut. They were afraid. They were afraid that the soldiers would come and take them too, just like they had taken Jesus. And someone said, "Peace be with you." They looked, and it was he. At first they thought it was a ghost, but then he talked with them. They saw his wounds, and he ate a piece of fish, and he opened up the scriptures as he had on the road to Emmaus. And finally again he said, "Peace be with you," and he was gone. Thomas had been away that night, and when they told him what had happened the next day, he did not believe them. He had doubt in his bones. "I won't believe until I can touch his wounds." And why wouldn't he have some doubt? Their minds were stretching and stretching and stretching to be big enough to know Jesus in a new way. 8 days passed. The disciples gathered again in the same room with the same doors shut tight. But this time, Thomas was there. And a voice said, "Peace be with you." It was he. And this time he went right up to Thomas and held out his hand. "Touch me." All Thomas could do was fall on his knees. "My Lord, my God." Jesus looked at him a long time. "Do you believe because you have seen?" He then slowly looked around the whole circle and said, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." Now I wonder, looking at these three, so Mary and the other Marys, and perhaps Peter and John, all of them visiting the empty tomb, I wonder if you have anything in your house that reminds you of this moment. I wonder if you have anything to remind you of the time that Jesus spoke and opened the scriptures up to the two men on the road to Emmaus. I wonder if you have anything that reminds you of knowing Jesus and the breaking of the bread. And I wonder about Thomas. I wonder if you have anything in your house that reminds you of this moment of trying to know something in a new way, of trying to stretch your mind so big to know something in this new way. Now, you are the only one who knows what you are going to get. I don't know what you're going to choose, and that's okay. Sometimes you may not even feel like choosing anything. That's okay too. Just enjoy. You are still a part of this whole story.